Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mary Lauder, and you are listening to the Since You Put It That Way podcast. It's the show that examines various health, wellness, and medical topics from unique perspectives. We will be having discussions and guests that will cause you to pause and consider, well, since you put it that way. Hi, Dr. Mary Lauder here, and welcome to another episode of Since You Put It That Way. Today I'm in conversation with our health and wellness coach, Michelle. And Michelle and I are going through the Hero's Genome, which is our signature program for testing you relative to your genomics and how that influences your health. And then we take it a step further where she gets to coach the doctor, that's me, on a certain area of my genome that I could improve on in a lifestyle way according to how I could have some better fitness. So stay tuned for that episode. That's coming up next. I'm in conversation with Michelle regarding the Hero's Genome. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are listening or viewing from. Michelle and I are together, and we have announced we're going to be in cahoots, it looks like, with the podcasting, which will be great. I would say send bail money. We'll give you the PO box where it should go, right? And anticipate continually being disruptors to a system that needs disrupting.
Gently, but absolutely disrupting.
Exactly. And then in a positive force, of course.
Yes.
But hopefully with a little bit of humor and fun along the way. And then we, learn and talk and kind of go together. So that should be fun.
Yes.
So on our episode today of Since You Put It That Way, and remember, it's the podcast that makes you stop, pause, and think, since you put it that way. We're going to talk about genomics. We're going to talk about the hero's journey and the Hero's Genome, which is our signature program for looking at your genomics, the blueprint for your health, and then how coaching comes along inside of that to help you be the hero of your own health journey. And I know I've put a couple messages out there about health coaching. One has been a little bit of a public service announcement in a podcast, and another one's been more focused on it. So, and that podcast was called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is the good part of coaching. How can coaching really enhance a medical appointment, the work of a physician? Not that it's about me, because it's actually not. It's about the patient. And so how can coaching really round out all those things that are necessary for the patient to succeed? So before we dive into the genome and give you some data, Michelle, why don't you define for us, if you will, health coaching and what makes you excited about working together? I hope there's something, and why this really seemed to be the right fit for you as well.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
So coaching, as Mary has said, can take a lot of different forms, and there are certain steps people have to take to become a certified health coach. I look at coaching, I've looked at definitions from different training programs, from different websites. And for me, to be a health coach means that they partner with you to help you flourish. They support you in flourishing. And the word flourish comes from positive psychology. It means going beyond just surviving. Coaches are trained in behavior change theories, motivational strategies, positive psychology, and health education, health promotion theories. And the coach will help you to activate your internal strengths and create processes, attainable action steps, and self-accountability that align with your values and a sustainable vision of well-being. So coaching is about bolstering the how you get to your vision that you may have laid out with your primary provider. So the coach isn't creating that vision for you. You're creating that vision with your provider, and the coach is helping you create the steps to get there. And ideally, a coach has received training and certification from a governing body like the National Board of Certified Health and Wellness Coaches.
Right.
And so what excites me about Karen Medical and working with you, Mary, with you, Dr. Lauder, is that you have over 30 years of experience. You have a very clear vision of what hasn't been working in healthcare and how to make healthcare a more user-friendly environment for patients, for people that are interested in wellness, not sick care. And much of medicine and mental health has all been about disorders and pathology and not about creating wellness. So I think that coaching has become more of it's become out there in the world because of our healthcare system, sick care system, that often limits providers to 15 minutes with a patient or very limited time. And so a patient may think, okay, I have diabetes, I have a heart condition, and the doctor is telling me I need to do something about it, and I don't know what. And I think that's why coaching has become a needed step. But also it can be a bit of a wild west where people have their own theories of how to create wellness in people. So what Karen Medical is gently disrupting is this.
Not be so gentle.
Yeah. Gentle can be a spectrum.
Hold them on
Is
right along.
yeah. But gently disrupting this idea of uh, there's only so much we can do, that you're on your own, that there's uh, that that there aren't answers. And with your approach of the genome and supplements and mind, body, heart, soul all being a part of the healing process, and the body can heal itself when it's given the right tools and the right environment in which to thrive, in which to flourish.
Exactly.
Yes, then this is, I mean, that's so exciting, because this is where hope for people that has been lost for a long time can turn into action steps and attaining health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just so well said and put together. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why I hired you, because you got this. And so, yeah. So, and it's interesting because a couple of things you said that really to explain why do physicians focus on diagnosis? It's how
Mhm.
we get paid.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you are a Medicare patient and you have diabetes, we literally have probably 30 codes that depict aspects of diabetes. So
Mm.
we have to pick the right code as the primary code, and then we have to pick up all the subset codes to that, meaning with or without hypertension, with or without eye changes, with or without liver changes, with or without kidney changes, with or without neurologic changes, with or without chronic anemia, with or without heart failure, with or with, on it goes. And we literally are coding for pennies, coding for dollars. Because if I leave some of those off, I get less reimbursement, because I presented a patient who could be exquisitely complex, but because I haven't reported it as such, I leave money, as it were, on the table for the complexity wherewith I've been dealing with the patient, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. It doesn't drive me to do better care if
Mm.
I can bill and code better. I did not go to school for billing and coding. It's something I have to continually attend courses on. and continue to self-educate and continue to update myself. That's not why I went to school. I went to school to be able to diagnose, treat, manage, care for patients who happen to have diabetes.
Yeah. It's such it's a waste of time and resources and your energy.
It is. And so then by the time we get to now, I have to come up with a lifestyle program for this person. I'm exhausted.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we send him to a diabetic educator. What? The insurance needs prior authorization? You're kidding me. I mean, we know the person's diabetic. We know the insurance it covers that, but now I have to write a letter it covers that, even after I've given you 12 codes that prove that. You're kidding me, right? I mean, this is not an exaggeration. This is not.
It's insanity. It's really
It is. And so I no longer operate in that system because you're right. It defined insanity and it kept disrupting me and my ability to serve my patient. And I was just exhausted just trying to do all of that stuff, let alone because I do focus on lifestyle and
Mhm.
because I do focus on root causes and I focus on the mind body approach that requires extra time, conversation, connecting with, listening to the patient. I just couldn't do it all.
Yeah.
And I just didn't fit that mode. I don't think I ever fit that mode, but back in the olden days, not quite horse and buggy, but back when when I started medicine 30 years ago, I could function in that world because the coding was much more simple and the reimbursement was much more simple. But it's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
so,
who
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and who thrives in that system? Who can
Nobody.
flourish?
Oh,
Nobody.
yeah,
Nobody.
there is somebody.
Oh, yeah.
The
Insurance companies.
medical industrial complex of the insurance companies
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that continue to make huge profits, billions of dollars of profits in a quarter,
Mhm.
through 67% of their profits supported by taxpayer dollars in the Medicare world. That's the Medicare Advantage plans.
Mm.
They're now owned by the top 5 or 6 or 7 insurance companies. So that needs to be dismantled. Talk about disruption. What would I do? I would, if I were president, I'd blow that system up. Now, how much? Well, to the extent that you could still put the Medicare system in place, universal health care for all, and you've got a structure, and people say, well, it costs too much money. Really? $4.7 trillion was spent on healthcare. 4.7 trillion.
Mm.
These companies are making $37 billion in profit a quarter.
That's
Where,
unfathomable.
who's saying this is too expensive?
Mhm.
So it's not, if you really turn that into dollars caring for an individual, it wouldn't be.
No.
And so that's, no, it's not a separate issue. That is the issue. And that is one of the biggest issues in healthcare. So what I did in leaving that entire system is decided what were the things I needed to do to really help a patient. Quit guessing, that would be helpful. I'll explain what that means. Doesn't mean I'm a bad doctor. It means there's a little more clarity. always, always strive. Okay, I'm here all week. Try the veal. I mean, we'll just keep going here. Really, truly, the mind-body approach, mind-body-spirit approach,
Mhm.
and finding that equanimity within all of that, so we can live content, peaceful lives that we're really due and we deserve, and we can live to the fullest and enjoy life with the best health that we can get. And we can restore health at any point. And health restored can look at a variety of things. Does that mean you're going to be the athlete you were at 20? Maybe not, not if certain things happened. But what about on the inside? Your connection to yourself, your connection with your soul and your spirit, and that contented living, that joyous living. When really at the end of the day, when people write what they really, really want, it's peace and contentment. Right. You
Yeah.
know, so
So
that's,
simple.
yeah. And
Mhm.
then the other thing with that, so you've got, figuring out, less guessing, the mind-body approach, and the time spent with the patient to really give them the tools to do and to change and to grow and to transform.
Yes. Yes.
So, that's why when we call it Karen medicine and the stack of rocks, and the Karen is the guidepost for the way, your friend along the path, the stack saying this is the way, you're on the right path. We're there with you.
Mhm.
Then the Hero's Genome, which is our signature genomic program, is creating awareness, education, abilities, and data for you to be the hero of your own health journey.
Yes.
And then with the mind, body, spirit approach, our self-care or self-compassion and connection, and our health coaching.
Hmm.
So all the tools are there for patients to come in and to transform, to gain lifestyle, to gain health, to get well, to feel well, to be well, no matter where they start on the continuum.
Mm.
And that's the
Mhm.
goal. And so, today what we want to talk about is the genomics and the Hero's Genome program. And I've
Mhm.
done a podcast on genomics. I think I've done cardiogenomics. We have a program, if you go over to the Karen Wellness community, which everybody can sign up for no cost through our website. You can then take the Hero's Genome by purchasing the test, or you come in through our Karen medical program and you get the test as the part of your registration fee. So the genomics test and using the genome is the blueprint for your health. And it allows me to not guess. Yeah, I think there's problems with detoxification because you tend to be sluggish, and you tend to be tired, and you tend to this and you tend to that. And when we take medicines, they don't quite work. And then you have a lot of side effects. Sure, that can functionally point to areas of detoxification, but what areas?
Mm.
Or, yeah, if I overdo it when I work out, I always ache for days. Well, okay, we can figure out why that is based upon the type of activity that you need to do that's best for you. And also if you have triggers that take you into more inflammation or oxidative stress. And we can find that in your gene patterns. And so with the genome, and I've done it, we're going to look at mine. So I'm going to be a little bit revealing here. Don't worry, we'll all keep our clothes on here. It's not that revealing. It's just jeans. So, and Michelle, you don't have to show yours, but you went through that process of me going through the test. And so it will be interesting to get your feedback, and even maybe share a little bit about your son, who he gave some insight to, and how that transform some of the things he was thinking about. But I'm going to share my screen and then go right to the genome test here. And so when you do a test with us, this is what it begins to look at. It's the personal genetic story of Mary Lauder. Once upon a time, when I was very, very young, on a planet very, very far away. Wait, no, that's not how it goes. But on a pathway very, very far away. So we begin to look at this lab that we use is, I'll stop with the jokes now, hopefully, maybe not. But this test is called 3x4. So we look at the three main pathways, and then one aspect of it is identifying what the pathway is, and then three ways to have impact. So that's the 4 steps, 3 pathways and then 4 steps. So for me, looking at results, methylation, inflammation, and collagen in joints. Those are the main areas. Now, in this test, what it then does, it brings up lifestyle things, dietary interventions that I can do, exercise or activity interventions, and then supplements. Now, does that mean I'm on every single supplement that this test lists? No. Why? Well, because this test is not diagnostic. It's only a blueprint. So, when you're building your house, the blueprint's great. You think it's going to look really good until you get what? A builder, person who does the subcontracting and the trim and the siding and the insulation, right? That's the quality of the build. So in this test, the quality of the build is the understanding of what this test is showing and the quality of the understanding of how to do next step testing to investigate based upon what the patient's symptoms are, their history, their current diagnosis, and current needs. So that's how you go about this. Then as we go down through the test, we see that there's a number of genes that I really have no impact on. I think this test does, like, I believe about 300 genes. It's a huge amount of genes. Now, the thing is, some people do genomic testing and they do 1, 2, 3, or 4 genes, and then they try and put something together with that. Well, the genes and this influence on our system is in the world called epigenetics, meaning how our genes interact and how our genes are influenced by our environment. Different than a mutation is where in the DNA, there's a section missing, there's a duplication of that section, or there's an insertion of another part of the DNA, another part of code. Any one of those 3 things causes enough disruption that they call it a mutation. None of what we're looking at here is a mutation. Now, you might say I'm a mutation, but I would disagree. And I digress. So moving right along. Okay. So then based upon the inflammation and collagen in joints, the lab then says, okay, those pathways then come in these categories. Cellular level, which is way upstream or way upriver. Okay, systems, cardiovascular, nervous, orthopedic, bones, mood, things like that. And then cardiovascular here as well, energy, activity, and our nutrients. So this is just how this is put together. And in this situation, the more purple means higher influence. So while there were 3 areas that came up, if I look at this and put the story together, I see that I have issues with inflammation, methylation. I have pro-inflammatory fat. My exercise response is affected. My ability to make fat is affected. Energy expenditure, weight gain, and weight loss resistance. Well, look at how many are here in the energy that are in the purple. Okay, so then what I do is I turn around and I ask the patient, in this case, I know myself, well, what happens here? Well, I know that I have a family history on my dad's side of all of the women putting weight on at menopause very quickly, of all of the women having putting on weight without eating a whole lot. And my dad had 5 sisters. And every single one of them struggled with weight issues, every single one. Now, what do I mean? They put weight on fast. What do I do? Put weight on fast. What do I do? Take weight off slow. So I'm your gal for, famine and floods. I'll stay around for a long time, and I'm there for the, long-term existence, and I'll have a lot, I won't wither away to nothing. The other thing, though, with this being pro-inflammatory, what that kicks in and things to look for there is over-exercising. And this has to do and goes into areas around cortisol, stress response. If I live in fight or flight, fawn or freeze, and I do a lot of exercising and push myself every day, push, and drink a lot of coffee and don't get enough sleep, I'm immediately in the pro-inflammatory phase. Anybody would be, but me especially, when we look at how my genes literally come together and make a story. So I have to watch out how much I exercise. No, I had to watch it as a youngster, and I never knew why, but I would know if I really push it, I would have a couple days, like 2 days later, I would just be wiped out.
And you were an athlete, right?
Yeah, still am, but yes.
Yeah.
Different kind now, but yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I lettered in 12 sports in high school and,
Wow.
started varsity basketball for 4 years. Yeah, and was gonna play at the collegiate level. So yeah, and also then all summers, we just rode our bike everywhere and swam all day and things like that. So yeah, very active. But when I would go into training and start training, it was hard. Distance running would just kill me because you would push really hard, and then like the next day or two, you had to go do it again, and I didn't have it in me.
Yeah.
And so down here in recovery and injury, you can see why. Again, now this test is not diagnostic. This says, hey, look at the trends. What do we need to know?
Mary, would you say too that with the pro-inflammatory uh fat, like would that be influenced by stress?
Totally. Yeah. And honestly, personally, in my life, I put on my most weight postmenopause with stress regarding my parents' health, their passing, and stress around the pandemic, all of the
Yeah.
above. Because I really didn't hit menopause till mid 50s. I was a little later.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of my aunts on my dad's side had hysterectomies. So there was reasons they had hysterectomies, right? Which would be probably all of this and probably inflammation and methylation issues that can influence hormones.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And so there would be, we would use terms like an estrogen dominance or an estrogen excess. Things you would see would be maybe fibroids in the uterus, maybe cysts in the ovaries, irregular menses, heavy menses, adenomyosis, where the uterus is more stiff. So it would be, so you then take this picture, take the history, because this kind of becomes footnotes. Where do I need to research now that I've heard the patient's story and I see their blueprint? How do I go back and repair or build differently?
Mm.
So, and then the other thing with interesting, like with choline and folate, when we think of methylation, we always think B vitamins, B6, B complex. The B vitamins must be methylated, meaning they are taken down one step and already in an active form for the body to use. Lovely. If you give me a bunch of B vitamins and to treat my methylation defect, which is the MTHFR gene that everybody looks at and say, oh, you have the MTHFR, therefore this and this and this is going to happen. One gene, one SNP, one of these aspects of that gene does not a disease make. Because remember, it's not a mutation. But if you're looking at methylation with that instance, if you give me a lot of B vitamins, you actually make my methylation worse because I've studied and tested through my methylation pathway to know that I do have adequate B vitamins. But one of the main cofactors of that is choline. And here it shows I have the propensity for low choline levels, which I would have to test. Again, not diagnostic, but testing for it.
Mm.
And so in that situation, don't give me B vitamins to further shut my methylation down. Support me with choline, zinc, magnesium, the other components of that pathway.
Hmm.
So kind of fascinating.
Very much. Very much.
So we're going to skip down to some things that are just really nitty gritty for coaching. Okay, so I'm going to slide down here. Activity and the weight management, energy and the weight management. You mentioned the pro-inflammatory fat. And this is how this test reports out for me. We saw all the purple higher up in those systems. And here it is here. Pro-inflammatory fat, which becomes, ready for this? This becomes a hormone, an endocrine gland. Your fat, my fat, that's pro-inflammatory, is an endocrine organ influencing the body. A hormone, which is in the endocrine system, is a fat-soluble molecule that goes from one point to the other and takes a message. I mean, I'm so talkative, even my fat cells are talkative. I mean, seriously. So it's just, thanks. You know, I mean, thanks. But when I saw this, the thing, I feel like Oprah here, since she's come out on the Ozempic bandwagon. I feel like Oprah, oh, finally the shame has been removed. But truly, I did feel that the shame was removed, because I would have people say, I don't see how you could carry any extra weight with as much as you do and as little as you eat and as healthy as you eat, moreover. I mean, my mom, I call them school lunches, and she did bring us school lunches, but she was very nutrition oriented. And we
Mm,
had whole wheat bread and tuna fish and cottage cheese and celery and carrots, and it was good stuff,
mhm,
and that was when I was really, if I eat that way now and exercise in a moderate fashion, I do and feel my best. So
mm,
we had that dialed in at a certain age in my life.
mhm.
So that was pretty good. So if we look down here, sitting in the chair, my resting metabolism is slower than optimal. Thanks. And my fat cells release less fuel efficiently when I exercise. Thanks. So if I stay in the slow and low mode, I still don't release very much. And this is how hard it is for me to lose weight.
Mm.
Thanks. But hey, I have a good appetite, and it takes me longer to feel full. Thanks. So this is like just this setup here. But let's take that, so and I think the other thing that bears explaining is one gene comes from mom, one gene comes from dad. And when they come together, we get, our genome. And so we get a mix. So even my, sister, who's obviously in the same family, unless we're told otherwise, right? With that, um, hers would be different, even though we're first degree relatives.
Mhm.
The genes would come together slightly differently for these expressions. So let's take this energy overview, and then let's drop down to activity overview, and then let's look at how would you coach me through this, in our current coaching praxis or theory or paradigm. So
Mhm.
in our activity overview, my training response, I have a good response to training. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You're likely prone to soft tissue injuries. Interestingly, not so much as a kid, now more without as much estrogen in my system,
Mm.
because the tendons and ligaments change without estrogen. Fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, it may take longer for me to respond to endurance training. Yes, I could have told you that when I ran the 2-mile race. I could have told you that. In fact, I did tell my track coach this past summer, and she just laughed. My track, well, let me say that my track coach from way back when, we still get together. She's a,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I forgot to tell you, I'm now on the track team. No, I'm not doing distance. But I told her, I said, it was never in my genes to be a good 2-mile runner. She goes, yeah, I know. So shout out to Mrs. Morris. And um, and my power capacity respond moderately. Okay. This I love. Likely need daily support to recover from exercise.
Mm.
A little more rest is good for the soul and good for the recovery. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. So looking at these two, what would you say? What would be your first blush as a coach to say, pretend it's not me, pretend I'm the average patient, pretend I'm the average client,
Mhm.
what would you
I
say?
I would first start out with what stands out to you in your report the most? Like, what's most uh, either startling or important
Mm.
to
In this, if we're focusing on this topic here of the entire report, these two aspects, two things. I'm relieved to see it because I have felt the struggle my whole life. And I felt the shame of the struggle my whole life, if I were absolutely candid.
you? Yeah, the report sort of takes some of the emotionality you've been feeling, like the personal responsibility. It it lightens that load, gives you more of an understanding of why things may be happening as they are.
Right.
Yeah. So then I would wonder what area for you is the most important to work on in coaching first?
Mhm. I think cardiovascular, and I would say ways to continue to increase energy expenditure throughout the day.
Mm, okay. And by cardiovascular, do you mean improving your cardiovascular health and your ability to do cardiovascular exercise?
Yes.
Okay. What what are you already doing right now?
Yeah. Um, Usually walking a mile a day with my doggo, Lucy,
Mhm,
and then once to two times a week doing the elliptical. It used to be bike riding, which was like 3 to 4 times a week in the summer.
mhm,
But now
mhm.
transitioning back into the winter, I bring that back indoors.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I would, in my perfect world, if I could exercise 5 to 6 times a week, but I don't think I can with that recovery.
Mhm.
Um, the time to recover, it just takes a little bit longer. Um,
When do you notice the recovery being more of an issue? Say, is it after the elliptical, or is it after doing something a little less taxing, perhaps, like walking? Does recovery uh, make what is the spectrum there?
yeah, walking, not really, no big deal.
Okay.
So it's going to be the elliptical or um, it, yeah, um, yeah, I would say it's the elliptical if I go longer than 30 to 40 minutes. So I monitor my heart rate. I'm anywhere between the 60 and 70% zone of my maximum heart rate,
Okay.
which is pretty solid. I'm able to do that.
Is that considered zone two, 60 to 80%?
Everything reports out to me at zone one, and I don't know where, pardon me, I don't know where the hell zone two is, but I think I'm in zone two.
Zone two is when you're breathing hard enough that conversation would be difficult.
Hmm? Hmm? I'm right there or just slightly below it.
Okay. Okay, so then you're doing zone 2 or where it's harder to breathe and talk. You're doing that for, did you say 30 to 40 minutes right
I would
now?
say I can do that for 25 minutes. If I were to change it to 30, I have to go in and out of that zone.
Okay. And that's twice a week.
Mhm.
All right. And walking is how many times a week?
Um, hmm, Probably three. It's on alternate days, I would say.
Okay. And from what you said earlier, you're wanting to get more cardio during the day, more times a day, or
I
increase your movement, perhaps?
maybe movement, but I think just um, setting the time aside and making sure the time's carved out.
Okay. On a daily basis, you would like to be doing some sort of movement.
Yep.
Okay. And what, when you're doing, you said about a mile of walking, how long is that taking right now?
Um, 21 minutes,
Okay.
20 to maybe 23, depends on Lucy. I'm going to blame Lucy on this. Our doodle. She's on sniff patrol. So what can I do?
This is true. This is true. This is the struggle is real with with dogs, but an awesome struggle.
All Lucy's fault. Okay, I'm done here. I see our work here is done.
Your genome and Lucy. That's so are at this point, would it which sound what sounds appealing? Does it sound appealing to do uh that mile more times a week
Yes.
than you're doing currently? Okay. What are you seeing? What would need to happen for you to be able to do that on a daily basis?
I think just put it in the schedule and literally set the
Mm.
time to do it. With the changing weather, and soon it will get light again, right? From where we are, from when this podcast is recorded, we're soon approaching the solstice here, the winter solstice. I would say if I got up in the morning, had a quick cup of coffee, and head out the door with Lucy, because Lucy sleeps in. She's a sleeper inner.
Uh,
And so we could get a mile before she got fed in the morning.
mm, okay. And what time would that be?
About 6:15, 6:30.
All right. So in order for you to walk daily for a mile with Lucy, you'd have to put it in your calendar, schedule at the same time every day.
Yep.
Are there any potential barriers you see to taking this step?
No, because I don't have to be out of the door at the very earliest until 7:45, 8 o'clock. And so that's at the earliest. And the days where I do my work from home, I'm home.
Okay.
I think it's a matter of I think it's a matter of doing it, to be super candid.
Mm. And do you have right now before it's getting light out, it's still fairly dark out at 6? Do you have what you need
Do I have,
light wise?
do I have the gear? I'm always I am the gal with gear.
Then you're the gear gal.
If it's something that I can get gear, I got it. Yes, yes, yes,
Sweet.
yes, I
Sweet.
can accommodate that.
And is there accountability you can get outside of me to do this every day?
I think so. I think Andy, my husband, would be willing to make sure I get my carcass out the door.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So then on a 0 through 10 scale, with 0 being not at all confident and 10 being super duper confident, where are you with this plan right now?
Probably 8.257.
Sweet. Okay. Nice. Then after we meet today, what do you need to do to make sure this happens tomorrow morning?
Tell Andy. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, because he usually takes her out in the morning, so he'll be a sleeper in her instead.
Okay.
No, I'm
Excellent.
sure he'll be up, but it's really just a matter of that. It's a matter, and then because we pretty much get up at the same time. together. I mean, so yeah.
Super. So then what do you think is going to be a benefit of doing this every day, of doing the mile walk and right away in the morning when you get up with Lucy? What what outcome do you see for yourself?
That's a great question. I think I see multiple outcomes, honestly. I see clear head and having a real grounded activity right from the get-go.
Mm,
Um, check, there's a sense of accomplishment.
mm,
Check, I've done something to get my heart rate up and it feels good. The blood is pumping, feels good. Um, I wonder, and I think we should just put this out there, not to be an overachiever, but I wonder if that will actually promote me doing more workouts later in the day,
mm.
having maybe a little more energy.
Yeah. Yes, definitely from what you're describing, you're foreseeing that you're going to be thinking more clearly, you're going to have more energy right away in the morning. It's going to likely improve the process of your day, which means that you're going to be likely more in the mood, more motivated
Yeah.
to be to make this good feeling just kind of keep rippling out. So I'm hearing a lot of positive outlook
Yeah.
about taking a step. Okay. Does that feel like enough of a step to take in this next week?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
let's, so in your own words, let me know exactly what your takeaways are from this and what you're going to be doing in this next week.
Um, so I'm committing to walking a mile every day, first thing in the morning. Getting up, quick cup of coffee, maybe a few sips, head out the door, get the walk in, put on the gear,
Woohoo.
gear. So, and use all the things and put Lucy in her vest to be highlighted as well.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we'll be, walking together. And she's interestingly, it'll be fun to know how interested she is in that sniff patrol at that time.
Mm,
So maybe we'll keep her on task a little bit more too. So
possibly. Yeah, another benefit could have a happier pup all day
yeah,
long.
yeah,
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So you've got your goal, you've got your action steps, you feel confident, and you're looking to see how this impacts both your body and your mind and your spirit.
yes.
So that sounds wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, we'll stop the share on that one. That was super helpful.
Well, good.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
much
the
easier than I thought.
and it all what the cool thing about coaching is that that all came from you. You know, that's your plan. What will work
Mhm.
with what you know right now to be your world. I don't know your world intimately the way you do. So you see your barriers, you see what will help you.
Mhm.
And so the coach ideally will bring all that in to um, the creation of the plan for you.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah,
It's great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I feel good. It feels doable. I mean, when we break it down like that and just, and I think one of the thing I just kept hearing when you were talking to me was there really isn't that many barriers. There really aren't any barriers. This actually feels kind of easy, and that's not what it feels like when I think about it all by myself and don't really break it. It's like, oh my gosh, you didn't do it again, or oh, you only did this much.
Yeah.
That's where I tend to go, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that. I think we all do that. We see things as this giant, just vague thing that I want to accomplish. And, life really isn't huge things that we accomplish. Life is a series of small choices that we make all day long. And so focusing in on what choices would enhance
Mhm.
your day and enhance your well-being is where you can make those changes. And it's also important to remember that part of making change is that you're not going to be 100% most likely. We humans don't operate that way. So if there is a day that you get off path, that's not a reason to stop completely. That's a reason to say, okay, this is part of the process,
Mhm.
and look to see what you've done so far to move toward your goal, and then just get back on. There doesn't have to be shame, there doesn't have to be a sense of failure, it's just that's what we do as humans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will report back.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, let's turn the tables.
Mhm.
Okay. Now it's getting fun. No, just kidding. So share with us, share with me as we're, talking here about how you felt, things you thought about going up to your genomic testing in terms of getting the results back,
Mhm.
going through the webinars, and then how the results impacted you when you got them for
Yeah,
your genome.
thank you. I So it was a really intriguing process. Because yes, I watched the webinars and they gave me a sense of understanding what the process was going to be about, why it's important, how it can fit into my total health picture. And my son also did the test, so it was fun to do this together. And we were both very excited to get the results back. So I'm a plant-based person, and I that's how I cook in our home as well. My son is an extreme athlete, and so health has always been a topic of discussion for us. So he's been interested because he's gone back and forth with plant-based and not. And he was like, okay, I know this is going to decide how we're going to eat, how we're going to do everything. And so when we got the results back, for me, it lit up a lot of like, okay, that makes sense. Because as I had shared with Mary, I've been recovering from this injury I've had when I tried to do a half marathon
Mhm.
earlier this year, and I only got 3 weeks into the training before I got the injury. And if you look at my genome report, that is a part of it. And I also have struggles with recovery. And I know every time I try to do something intense, I get injured. And so now that makes sense. So since the report, I've really made shifts to how I exercise and I'm trying to create much more sustainable uh, physical health because of the report. I also have increased my omega-3s
Mm.
because of the inflammation tendencies that I saw that you talked about it from my report, and fatty acids. So and it also helped me to know because the satiety thing for me is came up in my report because I can eat, I can eat, I can eat, and I don't get full, and that was revealed in my report too. So that gave me there's just a lot of peace of mind,
Mm.
I think that came from this.
Mm.
Um, and I continually go back to the report
Mm.
just to keep getting better understanding of how I can fine tune my life, and how I eat. My son has it was revealed in his genome that he has this propensity for the athleticism that he shows was very much a part of his report. And so and that he's not going to be he doesn't have the the holding on to fat the way that you and I do. Yeah, that we struggle with. So,
We have it as a hobby.
yeah, right. And Gosh, that's frustrating on on some levels knowing that it's just an easier thing for him, and he can't understand too, like, when I tell him, like, I eat because it tastes good, I don't eat because 'cause I'm full, because 'cause I'm not full." And he's like, "Ah, I just because for him, he gets full. But he has with more, vigor, started eating more meat, more protein. He doesn't have to worry about the fat intake, his body handles that really well.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and recovery was another big part of it. So for both him with his athleticism and me just in my I need to make sure I'm getting my basic routine has to be so much about caring for myself so that I do recover from anything I do. So yeah, it's been super intriguing.
Yeah. And it's what's really fun is when I do these tests and share the results with folks that I've never met before.
Mm.
And I write, and as you can see, there's a lot of pictures in the reports. And so I tell a story with them. And I talk about how our genes tell the story of us.
Mhm.
And it's 100% of the time, and that's not an exaggeration. I get done with people and they go, "How do you know me?" I said, "Well, because your story's right there." And um, so it is just always been affirming to folks that, um, this is them on paper in the blueprint. And again, what it doesn't do is it doesn't diagnose. It's not going to say, well, in 20 years, you're going to have Alzheimer's. It's not going
No.
to say you're going to get Parkinson's. It's not going to say you have cancer. It's not going to say you're autistic. It's not going to say you're depressed. It's not going to say you're going to have a heart attack. It's not going to do any of those things. It is because when you look at a blueprint of something, you're saying, wow, the potential's there to build a really cool house if we're looking at that
Yeah.
from a home standpoint. But
Mhm.
you don't know the end product until all the ingredients and all the supplies and all the builders have done their work,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So you get to be your general contractor. You get to be the hero of your journey into your genomic way and into really the blueprint for your health. And how it took the guessing out for me is I need to do keto. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I'm like, we don't know for sure, you know? And so I had one lady that just insisted. She goes, I do keto, but every time I do keto, I get sick, but I know that's what I need to do. I'm like, okay, well, let's look. So we look, and actually, it just says in there, it's advised for you to not do keto. I said, could we be any place? And she's like, okay, I guess I won't do keto. I'm like, okay. So, and I'm not saying that to make fun of anybody. It's just like, really, there's so much information out there that we have to glean through, not just only as lay people and things we see on the internet and Dr. Google, but as physicians.
Oh,
If you look at lifestyle medicine, oh, everybody should be, um, and I'm not picking on plant-based. Everybody should go plant-based if they have cardiovascular disease, like the Dean Ornish plan, right? The Dean Ornish plan would kill me because I need to have a certain amount of meat and a certain amount of, a balance. My protein has to come usually from meat sources, according to my genome.
mm.
And so it's just fascinating. Now, if I can get some from beans and I can get some from, all the plants, and that's good. And I'm like really solidly in the Mediterranean. And if you look at where my gene heritage comes from, I'm 97.8% Bavarian German.
Mm. Mm.
They ate plants, but they turned it all into sauerkraut, right? So it was all fermented, right? Or they made beverages out of it, the hops, right? So, but if you look at, a traditional German diet, not the high fat one that, that, but if you look at just the real, It's lean meats, it's venison, it's game, it's, pheasant, it's turkey, it's chicken, it's some fish, it's green leafy vegetables, it's root vegetables, it's turnips, it's kohlrabi's above the ground, but it's, Brussels sprouts, it's a lot of cruciferi,
Yeah.
cruciferous. I call them, if they're plural, cruciferi.
Yeah.
So, and so I do my best work in that too. And that's actually what my genome says. So we begin to look, it's really fun when you kind of look, at the medical anthropology of all this and putting this together. It begins to add up and equate to really what then feels good to eat, what tastes good to eat, what fuels our body in a good way.
Yeah. I
So,
think the thing that's in common with everybody, everyone's genome is different, and different things would enhance your life. And the only thing that is really necessary for everybody is real food,
yeah, right. Not the Frankenfood.
not the Frankenfood. Right. Oh, and I was going to also mention, Mary, I think the cool thing is that with how you lay out the genome with the hero's journey makes it just this, it's the sense of adventure, and I I really loved that aspect of the learning prior to getting my report, was how this fits in with Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And you've tried things, and things haven't worked, and you've fallen back, and then someone comes along saying, hey, try this, and then you implement different things that really bring out this kind of more of who you are meant to be,
Right.
that within you. So that, I think, is very appealing, and it doesn't make it like everybody else's plan, of just do
Yeah.
this.
Thanks. I think that's a really good point. And another thing we don't do with this is we don't hack anything. We're not hacking your genes. We're not hacking longevity. We're not hacking, it's in my perspective, it's a privilege to age.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to be here a long time.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean that there aren't some ups and downs. But it is a privilege to live life and to live it to its fullest. And so my goal as a physician, the humanitarian part of me, is to say, how can I come alongside and help you do the same? And I think the genome is one of the keys to doing that. So it's really, really a fun way. So, yeah, I would say we should check back in as we do another podcast together. We'll just do a catch-in or check-in on this and keep you posted, as it were, now that I've got the accountability piece there. And thank you for coaching me. I appreciate that. And it really made me see there really weren't that many barriers. It's really helpful. So
Yeah. Barriers are in the mind.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
definitely. Well, happy walking to you and Lucy.
Yes. Well, thank you. Well, happy genomicing to you, my friend. Until our next podcast, thank you for being here with us on Since You Put It That Way. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it, and have a great day today. Thank you for joining us on the Since You Put It That Way podcast. Today's episode was written and produced by Crowded Table Productions. Technical editing, Malin Long Lopes. Sound editing, Jonathan Fiegel. Music, The River Jordan, written and performed by May Erlewine. Please rate and review our podcast as well. We appreciate your feedback, and hey, be positive, share the love.